everyone. Welcome to the Love Your Body podcast. I am here with one of my dear best friends since middle school. I mean, right?
Yeah.
We're so old now.
I know. It's crazy to think about it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Michael Solorio, for those who if you want to introduce yourself, tell them just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. My name is Michael Solorio. Mm-hmm. You know, I've known Danielle forever. Probably 17, maybe 20? No, not that long. 17 years probably. Oh but I live in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And been there for about almost 7 years now, which is crazy.
That is
But I'm
crazy.
Originally from here, right?
Yeah.
That's how we met and we grew up together. So
I'm
excited to be here. I'm super excited.
Yes, I'm so excited too. I literally when you walked in, I was just stunned because I thought you were Logan at first, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it was like
because we look so much alike.
It was I know, right?
Right.
No, but it was like just dreaming. Like I'm just like, this is fantastic that you're here right now, and you get to see the house. Which
I know it looks great.
Yeah, like you didn't get
especially those paintings.
I know the paintings are. Shout out to my girl Samira. She did an amazing job. Yes, everybody says that, and everyone should be watching this on YouTube right now so you can see the amazing artwork.
I told her, I was like, I kind of want one for myself.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, last time you came here, it was I saw you recently, but before that, it was 2021 when you came to the house to see it.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, because I didn't live in here yet. Because when you saw it, you know what I mean?
Lived here.
Yeah, I was renting it out in the back and the front. So so we kind of just hung outside, and I showed you that and everything a little bit. But yeah, it looks so much better now, right?
Oh my God, so much better. I walked in and I'm like, it's about time. Because when I walked in last time, I was like, ooh, what's this?
Well, yeah, because 2022, when we renovated it, I mean, it took them months, and so I moved in October of 2022. So
okay,
yeah,
wow.
But yeah, because you have a house.
Yes, it's been 2 years. So that's actually a funny story. I don't know if we want to jump into that right now, but
yeah, you can.
So bought my house. It'll be 2 years in December, and with everything that happened with my dad and everything, I'm actually thinking about selling it and moving abroad. I don't know if I told you that.
What?
Yeah, yeah. It's a whole. So a lot has happened with It's a conversation that's happening.
Okay.
We don't have anything set in stone, but basically with my dad, he got brain cancer 2 years ago, and he passed in April of this year. Okay. And health deteriorated beginning probably Thanksgiving of 2023 is when it got that was the last time I would say that he was himself. And then after that is when chemo, radiation, and everything started. And I think just witnessing the American system on health is, in my opinion, terrible. Mm-hmm. Seeing what we went through with the hospitals, even the food that they give you there, it's a freaking hospital. You should have fucking salads and shit, not fried food. It made me so mad. And so I was just looking at I feel like America, while there are great things here, I feel like it's almost like a capitalist nightmare. We care so much about money that you forget about just the human aspect of it.
Yeah.
So it got me thinking about I kind of want to get out for a bit. Yeah. So we're actually thinking about Spain. Okay. So we're thinking about Barcelona.
Oh my gosh.
And we're actually visiting. So we're going to plan a few trips because we've never been. Okay. But we've done a bunch of research and everything. Yeah. Michael and I. Mm-hmm. And so our first trip is actually going to be this September. So literally next month. We're going for a week. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm so excited. I've never been across the Atlantic or any of that.
That's what I was going to say. You haven't. Yeah.
I haven't. No.
Okay. That's fantastic. And yeah, Ireland when I was 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I had a chance.
Break.
Okay. So I don't know. Segment into something else. I had a chance. I don't know if you remember. My parents went to Great Britain.
Yes, but you threw the parties.
And I threw the fucking parties.
Instead. Oh my gosh. If y'all ever heard me talk, which most of you probably haven't, I was listening to this podcast, but I've told some people that I ran, okay. I don't remember which.
They were kind of like,
no, you had a week. No, tell the story correctly.
Okay.
You had a week's worth of parties. It was it was every night was a different was a party.
It was crazy.
And I remember.
Oh my God, my parents are going to fucking watch this. They're going to be like, that bitch.
I mean, they found out, spoiler alert, at the end. Yeah. But I remember literally showing up. I think Bailey came with me. I don't even know, but like
She was like 10 at the time. Like, why is she there? Like hella underage.
So bad. But no, I remember being like, I couldn't come to the other parties because I had dance. So we had dance practice. So I couldn't be there for the first one. I could be for the second one. But I was about to show up to the last one. And literally it was like, I don't even know if we showed up or like as we showed up, we saw like cop cars or like it was like done. Like the party was over.
Okay, so like, let me tell. Okay,
Yeah,
so like, okay, so yes, my parents went to Great Britain because my sister lived there at the time because her ex-husband hate him. I don't like him. He's still in the picture, so blah blah. That's a whole nother story. Oh, but he was in the Air Force, I believe, and he was stationed there.
Okay.
And so they just had their first kid, Drew. I love him so much. Yeah. And my parents were going to go visit, and I was supposed to go. And I remember our group of friends, we were talking about like, oh, Michael, you should stay. You should like throw parties and shit. And like my little ass at the time, I was like, okay, like I want to be cool, whatever. So it was so bad. So one, I'm mad at myself because I missed out on a trip to freaking England.
Right. For our friend group
our
that sucks.
Dumbass friend group at the time.
That we're not even friends with anymore.
I know. And so there was 4 parties total.
Yes.
I remember there was one, I think, like a Friday, like Sunday. There was one Wednesday. I remember the Wednesday one because the Wednesday one was crazy. And then there was one like the next Friday, which was the one that got busted.
Yes.
But basically, one, I got to know a lot of kids, teenagers at the time around Middle Tennessee because of this. Like random ass people were showing up.
Yeah.
And I remember people were like walking up with like just boxes of like beer and shit.
Yeah.
There was so much beer I remember at the party, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like 16 at the time. Like, what the hell are we doing? So every party consistently got bigger. Mm-hmm. And it first started as like, let's just throw a few little parties. You never know how it's going to go.
Right.
And I remember my anxiety was like so bad each time. I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? Like, this is like so crazy. And I remember the Wednesday party specifically because there was so much drama there. Mm-hmm. I remember, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I remember like I caught like people in one of my bathrooms like doing like hardcore drugs, and then they were like snorting coke and shit.
Yep.
And I was just like, this is getting out of hand. I remember this girl like lost it, and she was like waving a knife around at somebody. I'm just like, this is crazy. But still, my dumbass was convinced to have one more.
I know.
And I was like, oh my God. So the last party lasted for literally like an hour.
Yeah.
And I was like, and we got busted. And I remember our old friends, they like grabbed my hand because the cops were at the door.
Yeah.
And they took me like, at my house, there's like a bunch of fences basically that like connect to make like an alleyway almost of fences. Uh-huh. So I was grabbed and like ran to that back alleyway. Yeah. And fucking Trey, I don't know if I should say names, but like Trey is the one that opened the door for the cops because they were like knocking like, and so I wasn't there. Yeah. Like I was like somewhere else. He opened the door. And he was pretending that it was his house. Right. And these bitches were like, bitch, we see brown ass people in these pictures. Like, that does not look like you. Like, you're lying.
Oh my God.
And so he was like, fuck. And so he called me and he's like, man, you're busted. Yeah. Like, you got to come back. Oh, and I remember who I was with. They were telling me, I don't even remember who I was with, but like, they were telling me like, don't go back. And I was just, I don't know. I was always like a good kid at heart. Yeah. Like following the rules and shit. So like, okay. So we went back. Yeah, and then we got busted. And I remember my brother had to pick me up. Thankfully, they didn't like, I don't know how like prosecution works and things like that, but like we were all underage. They made us pour all the beer out like in the sink. It was so bad. My brother showed up and he told me, he was like, if you make sure everything's cleaned up, I will not tell like mom.
Seriously.
And so I was just like, oh God, okay. Go back the next day to like clean stuff up. Yeah. Like so much shit is stolen.
That's right.
Do you remember that?
I forgot. You told me
and
that.
And like, it was so bad. I think there was like $15,000 worth of stuff stolen. I remember they stole. My dad at the time, he was a DJ part time. Yep. And so he had these like great like laptops that were like super heavy duty for that kind of stuff. Each one of them was like $3,000 a piece. Both of those got stolen. Yeah. Like my like video game stuff got stolen. Like all of this stuff got stolen. And so I remember, God, I was so scared. My parents came back, and they got our friend group. So it was like Stefan, Trey. They were like, you guys are coming to our house. You guys are like meeting with us, and you guys are gonna get our shit back. And so, and they were like, or else we're gonna tell your parents that you were involved. It was like this whole thing. It was so bad. Thankfully, we got like.
I missed this one.
I know. I can't believe you were there.
I know.
Like, or you weren't there.
Yeah.
But
no, I literally remember pulling up and then be like, skirt.
You're like, my bitch.
I was out. Like,
and this
I'm
was
sorry.
junior year. I remember junior year
Yeah.
because senior year is when there was like rumors between us. I don't know if you remember that. Where like the threesome. Do you remember? Do you remember? Oh, is that? Can I do that? Like, but anyway, so like.
You can say it. It's fine. But like, my gosh.
So like, there was it was bad.
But then also, I was throwing the parties though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like more so because that's the thing is I think we learned from that like inside house parties just were not the thing because like it was more stuff that could happen, get stolen, whatever. And I'm like, I got a yard. Like bonfire in the front, bonfire in the back. If you try and do bad stuff, do it in the back and the front.
You were like party queen.
Yeah,
I remember like that's what Danielle was known for. It's just like we were like so our group of friends. It's like I feel like we hung out with like we were like the in crowd, right? Like we were like the cool kids, blah blah blah. I never like truly felt like that. Like I feel like it was just the people that I hung out with.
Yeah.
But like at heart, I felt like I was always like a little like nerd geek, right? Like I was just like,
yeah.
oh my God, this is so not me, but I want to fit in. Like, let me hang out with these people. And you were known for like the fucking parties that you threw.
Yeah.
Because there was one like every weekend, I remember.
Yeah, because it was like, because when I had dance competitions, I felt like I missed out on so much. You know what I mean? Because those were gone for the weekends and stuff. So it's like when I'm in here, when I'm in town, like I want to be doing stuff. I want to be invited. I want to be at things. And I think I always had that complex of like, if I don't throw the party, I'm not going to be invited. You know what I mean? Because a lot of our friend group that he's mentioning were guys. And so for me, it's like, you know, I could easily be left out or like, you know what I mean? Or like if they had these like girls that they wanted to hang out with that were younger and like I didn't want to be around those girls. So I was like, well, I can have a party and like not invite them. Or, you know, I can be like, hey, I just want it to be us. You know what I'm saying?
I remember that.
So,
the thing about you were so exclusive.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember you had to be like certain type of person to go to like Danielle's because
whatever. I was friends with a lot of
you
people.
were, but I remember you were, and I think it came off that way because you were like, oh, only these people can come. We're like, I don't like that bitch. And, you know, there was just a lot of that. And so I was just like, okay, that's fine, whatever.
I think I just didn't want drama. Like, I just didn't want, like, but it also created more
I know,
drama.
I was just like, but you were always in the drama. What do you mean?
I can't help it that people tell me secrets.
I know. But there was like, it's crazy looking back because it's almost like, one, I don't know if you ever see those TikToks that you just see about the shit that you got away with in the past. That you were like, I would be like dead or in prison. Like the shit that we used to do. Like we would be like in cars. Like people were driving drunk and we were like 10.
Right.
And I'm like, what are we doing?
We were
And now
not 10. We were like 13,
no, we were
14,
like,
15.
we were like 15. Like it's fine. It's totally fine. But
They're like, someone's listening to this that's like in the north and like, yeah, those southern kids. Like,
and
you
I
know
look
what I mean?
back
Like in
and I'm
the
just like,
South.
oh my God, if I ever have kids, I'm just like, no wonder our parents were so like,
right.
what the like it, I don't know. It's just like crazy the shit that we used to get away with. But no, it's so interesting because okay, so obviously like, you know, I'm gay, right? Like, and I've always known, but there was a time where like me and Danielle had
I'm looking right at the camera.
we had like a moment, right? My bitch ass was acting. I was like, this is what you want.
I think I was too. I think I knew also. Like,
I don't know why, but Michael's gonna be like, what the fuck? Like, just these stories. But like, I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but for some reason I always remember this. One time it was pouring down rain.
okay, I don't know if we want. Do we want to share this for the Patreon, or do we want to like do this on here?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, okay,
it's up to you.
Do you just say like, are you just having that like the hot makeout scene?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that was like, I don't know why I like remember that. I'm just like, oh my God.
And everyone's like, this makes sense now. Dude, yeah.
I know.
It's like great taste in men.
I know, literally. Like, I feel like you like, I don't know. It was a whole thing, but
It was the whole thing. But no, but the thing was, it's like, you know, I think also like out of our friend group, when you looked at it, like you were the most kind and compassionate. You know what I mean? Always. And then like I was too. And so it was kind of like we got dealt people who were very just like, you know, I'm not gonna say that they were like horrible, right? But they just kind of like were manipulative, and they kind of were like, it's like you couldn't really trust because it was always something. It was like a, well, you did this for me, I have to do this for you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like with us, we never felt that way. It was just like we had this friendship, and we're like, man, like we felt so close on that. Like we were trying to like survive it together. You know what I mean?
Like, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel like in the beginning of this whole podcast, I was saying how I never felt like I was like truly part of them.
Yes.
And that was it, right? Because
Yeah.
I remember you and I, we were friends with everybody.
Yeah.
So like the cool kids that we're talking about, they were like exclusive. I feel like they would bully us because we were so nice to everybody else. So they made us feel like shit, like in the group.
Yeah.
Of like, you're not worth anything, blah, 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 blah. Like just to make themselves feel better.
Right.
So that's why I felt like, looking back, I'm just like, damn, like why did I hang out with these people? But I do remember that because we were always the ones that would talk to like, quote unquote, like the little nerdy people, like,
Or
you
like
know,
whoever.
or like whoever,
Yes,
like it
exactly.
didn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I forget who it was with, but from the outside looking in, I feel like we had this persona to like other people.
Yes.
And when you got to like know us, we were totally different people. Like how you said, we were, I feel like, the nice ones.
Right.
We were the ones that I think we were just real people.
Yes.
And we were hanging out with a bunch of people that were just fake as shit.
Yeah.
And they were trying to be this like stereotype, trying to be this like
Right.
certain group. But it's interesting because I guess that almost takes me to a place that like, for me, my struggle, because I struggled a lot with bullying for a number of different reasons. One, because of this friend group, because I was, you know, different. Two, because I've always been, I guess people knew that I was gay, but I was like trying to hide it, right? Like some people knew, some people didn't, and it like came out sometimes, and it was like the feminism of it, right? But even like growing up in a town, so I was born in California, and I moved to Tennessee when I was 4. And I remember I lived in Arrington, Tennessee.
Okay, yeah.
Hella backwoods.
Yeah.
Right? Like, nothing but white people there.
Right.
And so I remember I went to Rock Springs Elementary, me and my sister.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I don't know if you even know what that school is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like hella in the middle of nowhere. And we were like some of the only brown people there. And I remember that was a big thing, right? So like even now, like as an adult, I have a lot of like almost racial trauma in a way because that's always been a thing, even growing up like in such a southern Bible Belt place. Like the whole gay thing was like a big thing, so there's like a lot of religious trauma there and things.
Yeah.
But in a way, I don't want to say I'm thankful for it, but I feel like it just made me so much stronger because I think experiencing that, there were some dark times.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I've shared a lot of them with you. I remember you were like the one person I felt comfortable like crying with and shit. Like we would always have these like little sessions and stuff. I think that's why you're still in my life and this person. But I'm just thankful for making it because I know a lot of people in my situation and making it and being positive. Or at least trying.
Yes.
Right? Like I have my moments. I'm like a hot mess sometimes, but there are people that go through those things and they just don't.
Well, their whole outlook is completely dimmed and they're in just negative and just sad. And that is something that like even in your most trying times, I have seen you still stay somewhat positive. You know what I'm saying? You've never like let that go.
Yeah.
Which has been great because
That's
even
nice to hear because sometimes I don't feel like that.
well, yeah, but like but I think that's because like there's a unique light in you that like God's put in you, and I believe that, and I believe that in myself too, that you know is meant to help people and be there and kind of like be that light. And I've always seen that, and you were that for me a lot of times, you know, growing up. And just like I said, there was conversations that we had that I couldn't share with anybody, even like girlfriends that I had, just because it was always somehow used against me.
Yeah.
In some way, form, or
you
fashion.
always struggled with that. There was always someone. I think there was a lot of jealousy there, to be honest, because you had such. Even though you were going through what you were going through, right? Because I think like the body image and things like that, that's always been so like such a thing for you growing up. You still had so much confidence. And I think that that rubbed people the wrong way, especially at a time where like that was truly before the like love your body thing really happened, right? And it was a time where like everybody had to be like hella skinny and like look a certain way, and I think you were a catalyst to like change that, at least in our community, right? And that's what I've seen what you've done with like your stuff here. Yeah. And I think it was a lot of it was jealousy, because I think there were girls that fit what you should be fitting in,
right?
And they still weren't as confident as like what you portrayed to be.
Right. You heard it here first from the beginning.
No, like, yeah,
from the get go.
I think like it's one of those things that like I don't know, like there's a difference between like, because we didn't know who we were, right? So like I don't want to say like you knew who you were, but like I think this what you've built has always been in you, and I think that's what you were kind of showing. Yeah. And I don't think people were ready for it.
Yeah. I think sometimes they're still not ready for it, honestly. You know what I mean? They're like, that bitch. No, but fuck that bitch. But no, thank you for sharing that, just because like, you know, I've said that, I've kind of alluded to that like, you know, I even talk about it in my book, you know, and everything, that like I genuinely did not see a problem. You know what I mean? With myself. Like, I was just like, I love the way I look, you know, I'm wearing a crop top, I'm doing this and whatever. And it just like to have that, like that energy and that positivity. And then to somehow it constantly be like, you know what I mean? Like cracked, like kind of just like a, I don't know, like into you all the time. Because that's
like
how
when you consistently hear something, you almost have to like start to like believe it. Yes. Because you're like, shit, like.
Right. And that's what made me question it. It's such a pivotal point in my life, because if you really look at pictures, like I did drastically change from like even the age of like 13 to 15 or whatever. But that's also because of like then when I started getting my driver's permit and like eating like more unhealthy, but like I had gone on steroids because of like my like the sickness I had with acid reflux and stuff. But because of that and my poor eating habits, no matter how much I worked out and danced and whatever, it completely changed my whole body shape. And it was just like, but again, while it was happening, I still was still competing, was still dancing, all these things. So it was just like people just started treating me a little bit differently. It started like, and it just kind of poured insecurity onto me. And I kind of like just soaked all that up. And I was like, but I'm not this person. So it kind of felt like a battle. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, should I go with what everyone's saying? But I also know that I'm not, you know? And so that was the biggest struggles that I was having, you know, within that time.
I knew that. And I think that's what's like so hard, because I think from our perspective, because it's almost like a sense of pureness, right? Like when you're a kid, you like have this purity of just like, I'm different, it's fine. Yeah. Like you're different, it's fine. But then when society kind of grasps you or like gets a hold of you, that's when things become like, oh no, this is what's accepted. This is what's accepted. Right. And it's like, because you weren't fitting that, it's almost like my struggle, right? Like now, obviously the whole, like, I feel like even sometimes like gay is like a fad for some people, right? People are just like, oh, I'm everything. But like for me, I was at a time, and I didn't have it worse than like people like in the 70s, 80s. Like it was horrible then. But even for me, where it's just like, this is something I can't help. That was something you were going through that you couldn't help. Yeah. And like for people to still make you feel bad about that, it sucks. I think from as a society, we are getting better with this, with these things. It's like we accept like differences more. Right. But still, I think there's always going to be that like, oh, you have to look this certain way, be this certain way to like really be like part of the like in crowd.
Right. And that's where too, like, if anyone listening and stuff, it's again, we've put that one standard on such a pedestal that like now no one is even reaching that standard though. I know. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because now people are AIing their photos, they're editing their things. So not even those people look, you know what I mean? Like that. And that's what I'm trying to, again, like break that stereotype so people realize that like even the person you're watching on social media doesn't look how she presents herself or he presents himself or whatever. Like there's lighting, there's angles, there's all these different things. Like real bodies move, real bodies have cellulite, like real bodies have, you know, more body fat than an Olympian, like, you know, or whatever. Like it's part of it. And that's what makes you beautiful. It makes you different. And we should aspire to be, not different, but like, I mean, be unique in our own self, you know? And that was something too with the friend group that we're talking about. I mean, constantly, and I think I put it, maybe I saved that for my next book, but anyway, but I said, like, it's like, I mean, I was called names and things, but like we had another friend in our group who was overweight. Okay. And he never got the scrutiny that I got.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And I loved him.
You guys were like,
he was great.
Yeah.
And
that's where you go into like the whole like male versus female kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
and that's
so
like a whole topic that.
And my whole thing was like, I just wanted everything to be fair. And I've realized life is not fair. I understand, right? But
I'm
like,
the same way.
I just wanted, like, if they're treating, like, why aren't they saying these comments to him?
Yeah. And you also weren't the only like girl. Right. And I feel like they didn't get as much scrutiny as you. I think it's almost because you were just so much in the limelight.
Yeah.
Right? Because there were other, like, I don't want to say names. I really don't. Like, it's really hard. But there were other girls that were, like, same body type.
Yeah.
And it was fine.
Right.
But I think it's because, like, I think when it's almost like being a celebrity, right? Like you're kind of a celebrity, let's be honest. But like even in school, you were always in like shows.
Yeah.
Do you remember I had like an ADHD moment. Do you remember the prom fashion show that we did?
Yes.
That was so much fun. We're like dancing and shit.
Ridiculous.
But I feel like you were always in the spotlight because of the things that you did.
Yeah.
And a lot of those girls weren't. Right? And so I think that probably because attention was always on you, that was a contributing factor to it. But the one thing I won't understand is the whole like male versus female thing, which is frustrating to me because it even goes into like, I don't know if I should say this because it's kind of putting you on blast, but
That's
like,
okay.
I remember you had like, there were some people that thought you were like slutty or like whorish, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you never, like, I remember like, you never did anything, right? You were like legitimately like a virgin
Yes.
but you were being classified as that when like other girls were like not, but then there was like guys that were doing like so much worse and like no one cared about that kind of stuff.
Right.
And it was just like, I remember
Blackman High School, man.
I know. I remember what you were though was a makeout whore. You were. I remember that was the thing. But you weren't like an actual like, you know, you like to kiss people. That's fine. That's like.
Vicky's gonna love this episode.
Wait. Oh shit.
It's okay. It's fine.
I know. I feel like I'm sorry, Vicky. I love her too, but like.
No, but yeah, like I love to kiss people. It was fun. But yeah, but that was it. Like, and so that's why
you did.
It was so frustrating because my whole thing is, and it's still to this day, has been like, I will own whatever it is. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching the Love Your Body podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on YouTube. And if you haven't checked out my new book, it's How to Love Your Body Throughout. You can get it on Amazon, on Kindle, or paperback version. So I really appreciate everyone who's bought a copy, who's shared it with friends, who's maybe got it for their daughter, for their son, or whoever. This book is for everybody along with in their journey, whether they're starting out with, starting to love their body or they're going through a hard time or whatever it might be. This is for you. So please let me know how you love it. Leave a review as well. And, stay tuned for upcoming events. We have the Fight for What You Want challenge happening in the fall. So I'd love to have you a part. If you have any questions about in-person or online training, please email me at Dani@DaniFitness.com. And until next time, I'll literally like put my phone down and be like, yeah, you can read any message I have. I have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely don't.
Yeah.
And so that's my whole thing of like, I've always been like that. So that's why I was like, if you're going to call me out on something, either get the proof to back it up or just ask me and I'll tell you straight up. You know what I mean? And that's why it was always so like frustrating because then when there were like secrets or other people's secrets or stuff like that, like I was just kind of like, I hate this. I hate that feeling of feeling trapped.
Yes.
And I still, so as like, that's why I try to be as real, authentic, and have these conversations with people because I don't want, especially here, recently, within the past, I'd say a year of not doing my shows and stuff like that, have been able to have like clarity, gotten closer to God in my relationship with Him. And it's like, I don't want to do things that I am, ashamed of or that I can't like say to you or I can't tell my parents or I can't tell whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And living just a more, simple, pure life. And so I've really strived to do that. Because again, I hate that whole notion of like, I'm hiding something. because I mean, you know, with the whole thing that happened before, but
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and you remember me like calling you when
Yes.
he passed away and stuff. And
Oh, that was like, out of all of the years that I've known you, I think that was probably your lowest time going through that. And I remember it was just so like hard in the sense of like, for one, I knew that you were, because you've never had the best luck with guys.
yep.
It's been not great, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with like, bitch, who are you liking? Like, because these guys are toxic as hell. Like, why are you doing this?
I know.
And so I think you were just in a moment where, again, it's like the beatdown. Like, I think you went through so much, you were almost just looking for anything. And
Yeah.
you were like, I just want to be loved.
Yeah.
And you going through that experience, while it was awful,
Yeah.
I think it almost taught you something about like loving yourself even more. And I think, again, that was one of the catalysts for where you are now.
Yes.
Because you had a streak.
Yeah.
There was like a couple that I'm just like, Danielle, what are you doing?
Right.
I'm like, why are you doing this?
I know.
And then I think that one was kind of the last of just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then you kind of went on your journey to like really build your brand and do your whole thing, which is great. So
Thank you.
Proud
No,
of you.
I know. I love you too. But like, that's the thing is like, it was so, it really was. It was like, I knew God was telling me like all these things even before I found them out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like distinctly, and can see it so clear now. But I was
you're
just
like, bitch,
so,
you don't see this?
No,
You don't see this?
no,
Okay, you gotta see this.
Right. And I literally was like, nope, can't see it. Like, not in
You're
it.
like, but he's
But
cute.
no, I
fine.
literally, and that was the thing is because, you know, I will say that like I had been put in a position before that where it was like, it shouldn't have like happened with the other situation that happened. And like with that one, I was so hurt because I had like lost like my whole thing. I lost my fitness community in that. I lost my, you know, like that point, that coach, you know, all those things. Right.
I remember
And
that
so
one.
then it was just like, okay, I'm doing great. Like I was on cloud nine. This is like me in strongman era. This is like, I feel good in my body. You know, I was rocking it. And this person walks in my life. And the moment I saw him, I was like, what's up? You know what I mean? And then from that moment on, it was just like, he's supposed to be here for some reason. Don't know why, whatever. But he taught me so much about myself that like I thought I had already gotten over or thought that was better or thought that like I was at like my highest self. I really did. I was like, there's no going up from here. Like I am in it, you know, crushing it, all these things, right? And then it just came tumbling down. And it made me think outside of myself afterwards, like, you know, just how grateful I was for you guys that actually stuck around, that didn't judge me, that cared for me, like the love that you, Alexis, Jordan, like showed me, like that was all I needed. You know what I'm saying?
You're like, we're the real ones, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're in Vegas and then you're listening to me like cry on the phone and talking, and, you know, and going through your own stuff. And I'm just like, you know, venting. And it's just, it was a moment where it made me appreciate everybody around me. Because even my brother, my mom, like I'll like, you know.
Because I remember you and your mom, tumultuous, right? Like the relationship, like growing up and stuff. But I remember you guys like really just, it did happen for a reason.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's when you, like, she was always there for you. Like she was like, and I love that, even though it's almost like when I was saying like, I hate that I went through my stuff.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you have to go through that stuff. And you know, it's interesting what you just said about like, I feel like something similar, like what's the word? Almost when you have like such a quick realization. What's that word that I'm thinking of?
Like,
what's that word?
I don't know.
Huh?
Like
Or are you saying like a revelation?
a
Yeah,
revelation?
something like a revelation. Like,
Okay.
but there's another word. It's not that word, but there's like where you like hit your low point.
Yeah.
And then you come back up. I feel like that.
Talking about rock bottom?
Like a rebound? What do you
No, what? Epiphany.
Oh, epiphany.
Epiphany.
Okay.
I know you said rock out. You said everything. I'm like epiphany.
Okay, yeah.
Literally, they all kind of mean the same thing. So whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like I had one of those recently because I know you know some of this stuff, but I'm gonna like share
No,
this
yeah, share
about
it.
this past year. Well, 2024 has been rough,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I don't know if you know everything, but dad passed away,
Yeah.
right? And I think for me, like, growing up, so it was my stepdad, you know that.
Yes.
And the father figure in my life was always very rocky, from the sense of, because my biological father, I call him my sperm donor, because he didn't do anything to like me, but just like what I know about him,
Yeah.
I perceive it as like he's not someone I want to have a relationship with.
Right.
So he went to prison when I was 4 or 5, stayed in prison until I was about 23, got deported. And I did go to see him because at the time it's like in Hispanic families, particularly, I'm going to speak for Mexicans, culturally, like, you have to be there for your family. You have to, like, especially the man of the family, right? Which is like a whole nother thing. But so I was almost like pressured from like certain siblings to like have a relationship with this man that I know nothing about.
Right.
So I went, nice guy, very charismatic, very like, and I'm just like, okay, like I thought we were going to build something, but just like, I got these vibes that he was still involved in like what he was involved with.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, there was something there that wasn't clicking for me. Right. At that time, Adam, my stepfather, he came into my life when I was 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. And I remember I always held him at like arm's length because I always had that trauma, right? Of just like, you're not my real dad. It's like a whole thing. And I really struggled with that.
Well, and also too, he's white. Yeah, he was white.
He's white, yes. And then there was like a cultural aspect to it, right?
So.
Because it's like coming from like my mom, she is very Americanized now, but the way she brought us up was very like traditionally Mexican.
Yeah.
Of just like the strictness, the like, you know, that whole thing.
Oh, I remember. I'd take my shoes off at the door.
Oh yeah, she was like, like
no.
you in my house, like she would have fucking plastic.
Yes,
Like
I
what the
remember.
walkable area. I'm over here looking at the camera.
Yeah.
The walk areas where you like, you know, would walk from like the front door to like the kitchen and stuff, plastic.
Yeah.
And if you like, we could not sit in the living room.
Right.
The living room, like, because we had a formal living room and then we had like a hearth room, which was like the secondary living room. We could sit there, but no, like that's for looks.
Yeah.
Like you bitches, And I remember she would like, God, Mom, I love you. But like, I remember she would like yell at us and like, I remember being like hit, spanked, but she'll deny it. You know, you know, like parents like nowadays are like, I never hit you. I'm like, bitch.
Yeah. I just want to note though, she did love me. So
Yes.
she
Oh
just
my
loved
gosh.
me.
She loved, even now. Like I remember she, like this bitch would call me. And I love my mom. I call everybody a bitch, by the way.
Yeah.
But like that's like my best friend. She would call me and she'd be like, oh my God, I see a sign of Danielle. She was so proud of you. I remember that moment. She was so proud because she's always loved you, right? And you've always had a special place in her heart. So she's gonna be super excited to see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like, yes, Dad was white. That whole dynamic was interesting and like, but the thing looking back, we had our moments.
Yeah.
Right. But he was the one that was always there. He was the one when there was like dad events, he would go there. I remember when I was in a fraternity to like, we had like Dad's Day. And I remember thinking, I'm just like, oh my God, like I don't really have dad. But he was there. And like, I looking back, I wish that I would have appreciated that sooner.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really like have the relationship that we had when he passed until about 4 to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I was holding on to the daddy issues. And it wasn't like that I was angry at sperm donor. It was just that like I just couldn't accept. I don't know. It was weird. Like so I remember like men, like father figures, like I would get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It was like a whole thing. So like we finally, him and I, me and dad, stepdad, Adam, we like had a really good talk, and he was always someone that out of everyone in the family understood me. Because there was a time where my family, and again, we've worked through this, so I don't want to feel like I'm rehashing old things.
Right.
But I have to speak my truth in the sense of like, I have always had like abandonment issues, right? And I think it started from like the sperm donor days. But like when I came out, there was a couple times that I tried to come out.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember
talk
this.
about your age of this too.
Yes. So like, I remember the first time I tried to come out to my mom, I was around 16. I was like, hey, I remember like the whole thing of like being gay, you're always bi first.
Right.
For some reason, it's like that makes it better. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I like women too.
Right.
But my gay ass, I was like,
she also like wanted us to be together. So
yeah,
I
she
I
did.
think that's...
My mom also too. She had like had this. I think for her, why it was so hard for her to overcome certain things is because she had this life planned out for me, right? And I think I'm the last. I'm the baby. Mm-hmm. So I think she thought I was the one that she got it right with, right? Yeah. I was the one that got good grades. I was the one that was like, I was charismatic. Like I had like traits to me that she was like, oh my gosh, this is the one. And so
because it's like Janelle and then was it Janelle and then you and then
yeah, so it's like
okay.
Ronnie, Janelle, me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And so yeah, Ronnie, I mean, she was young, right? She was like a child, and then Janelle is 2.5 years older than me, and then me.
And are all of them from the same dad also?
Yes.
So that's why do they have a connection with him, the sperm donor?
No. So
okay.
Well, my brother.
Okay.
Yes, the oldest one. But if you think about it, my brother is 14, 15 years older than me.
Right. Just like how my brother is.
Yeah, he's a whole nother generation. So like we've always been at odds too. Like, and we're now in a good place, but like that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But so what was I saying?
Just about Adam, about like how or like when you came out
coming out. Yes. So like my mom struggled with it. So anyway, the first time I tried coming out was 16. And I remember she pushed it back in. Because I remember we were in my room. I was like, I know that bitch was like, nope. And so I was like, okay, just kidding. And so I remember we're in the room. JK, I was straight as hell now, goes to make out with Danielle. That's probably why I did it. I was just like, I gotta get the gay out. But no, I'm
sorry.
No, it was sorry. Like, so. Oh my God, that's funny. So I remember I was in the room with her. I was like in my bedroom. Like, I remember I sat her on the bed. I was doing the most. And I was like, Mom, this is it. And then she's like, no. She's like, you can't tell anybody. Like, you don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not true. That's not a thing. And I was just like, okay. And so then I like pushed it back in, I would say. So then a couple years go by. I want to say 21 is when I like officially came out, because 16 I came out to friends. Yes. I remember I at least was like, hey, I think this is a thing. And I remember you were one of the first people I told. And, but I call like my official coming out to where like the world, I was like, fuck you, this is who I am, was 21. Yeah. And, I felt as though my family abandoned me. Mm-hmm. And it was hard because growing up the way we grew up, it was always like family's everything. Yeah. But looking back, there were so many secrets. There were so many, like, you sweep everything under the rug. Like, you don't talk about that stuff. And it's not like, everyone wants their, like, typical gay story, right? Mm-hmm. Like, in the media at the time, like, while I was witnessing, every coming out story was positive. Yeah. It's like, your parents are accepting, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't the case for me. Right. And so I think that was very hard. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that, like, the family... Like, again, to me, it was abandonment, because it's almost like you portrayed this, like, I'm always going to have your back. Yes, we're family. We're this, we're that, no matter what. And all of a sudden,
but then there's something.
I tell you something, and you treat me like a different person. Right. I would still go to, like, family. So there was a thing between me and my mom where, like, she said some things and, like, it really put a divide between us. And so, like, we didn't speak for a little bit. But, and, like, literally everyone in the family, me and my brother, like, we had the whole thing too, because I remember he told me, he was just like, I will never accept this, and I think it's gross. It was like this whole thing. So
yeah. What was there's different versions of pushback and, I guess in different situations, but was it like a religious thing? Was it a culture thing? Was it a combination? Was it a generational thing? Combination of all?
That's actually really, like, yes, it was all of it. So let me speak on that a little bit. Yeah. So, cultural for sure, because Mexicans, you come from this like machismo culture of just, you're the man, you have to do this and that. And so for some reason, being gay, you're like less of a man in their eyes. Religious, I grew up very religious. We started off Catholic, and then we went into, like, I remember there was like some exploring. So I know they went into like certain Christian denominations of like trying to figure that out, but now they're like non-denominational. But even now, like, even though I wouldn't say it's complicated. I wouldn't say my family's accepting, but they've like, I haven't given them a choice.
Yeah.
I'm more of like, this is me. If you want me around, this is what you get.
Yeah.
Whereas like, it's complicated because I feel like primarily it's the religious aspect, which goes into my religious trauma. Because I remember growing up, I would go to church, and I don't know if like gay was just a big thing at the time, probably, but I remember the pastor would say like, if you're gay, you're going to hell. And I would literally, I kid you not, I would cry every single night. Oh my gosh, this might make me emotional. I remember crying every single night, telling myself like, God, please take this away from me. Yeah. If there was a pill, if there was something, please give it to me, because I don't want this. And it was hard. And I remember I was so depressed. So it's a sad thing to think about, because it's like, just for perspective for you guys, when people say now, like, oh my God, I want to go back to being a kid, having no problems. I don't.
Right.
And like, I think that's always been something that I've never like vibed with, because everybody is always like, oh, we have so many struggles now. Yeah, being an adult is hard. Yeah. But like, just the feelings that I lived with growing up, I never want to go back to that. And I think that's why I'm so passionate too about just like acceptance. Can I be judgmental? Absolutely. Like, I'm human, right? Like but for the most part, I never want to make someone that's different than me feel ever the way that I felt, because it was such a dark time.
Yeah. And that's such a parallel of what I say with my girls and the people that I train. Yeah. I never want them to feel how I felt. And so it's almost like a protection now for them. Yeah. You know what I mean? When they go into a gym, when they start go on dates, when they do whatever, all the things, so that they never have to feel, you know, or, you know, and giving them the confidence to stand up to those people. You know what I'm saying? There's so many times that I wish that I could have been like, hey, so-and-so that in our group, stop the nonsense. You know what I mean? Like, stop being this person, and like, and should have distanced myself from. I'm basically an only child at this point, because my brother, you know, has moved away with his now wife and everything.
How much older is he than you?
He's 13 years older.
Okay, so literally the same as me and Ronnie.
Yeah, and but because we live together, like, that's why we're close, and that's why his nieces or his daughters and sons are like my nieces and nephews that I see often. But anyway, they live out in Shelbyville and stuff. So, but yeah, like with the homeschooling, with like how that was laid out, whatever. I mean, like I said, I loved it. But then when I went to middle school, I mean, I picked up on like how to like social cues. I mean, like I just listened. I got really quiet, and then I just like watched everybody. And that is how I learned, like, okay, if I want to be cool, or if I want to be with these certain group of people, I got to be cool with that person. Like, it's a whole thing.
No,
like,
I get that.
Yeah. And like, it was just such a culture shock, you know? And then I don't know, I just kind of followed in suit with what everyone was doing. And that's why I didn't mind talking to everybody, because I just wanted somebody to talk to, you know? And
you come from like a wall.
Well, I literally, like, I mean, there was still social engagements with like dance, because I would go dance and stuff with people. So I had that. But like, so I don't know. It was just very interesting on the whole thing. So what we had met was it 9th grade that we met?
I believe
or was it 8th?
So.
It was in a math class.
Who was that lady? That was high school. It was high school.
Okay.
Who was that teacher? God, I could not stand her. She was so mean.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. But yeah, so I remember her as well. Yeah. Somehow she liked me though. I don't know.
I think every teacher liked you.
Well, whatever. I wasn't even that of a goody two shoes either. Maybe I was.
You were.
Was I?
Yeah, you were. You were like, hey, teacher, here's some candy. No,
Maybe
I'm just kidding.
Just nice.
I don't remember that.
Maybe you're just nice. But no, I don't know. Like, we were, like I was saying about all of that though, it's just, to go back to it, like, I wrestle because like I am learning more and more about in the word and everything, and just about, you know, all of it. Like, we're in Revelation right now, and, you know, it is challenging. Huh? Oh yeah. Well, it is challenging, because you've heard so many things growing up, like, of this and that and what's going to happen and whatever. And the whole thing is that everyone in my life is in here for a reason. You know what I mean? And so I love you deeply, and I want you to always know that. And I know you know that and everything like that. But again, it's not on me to tell you what your relationship should be with God. Like your relationship with God is your relationship with God. And I hope that you have one. And I hope that with the relationship, you know, the trauma or the religious traumas and stuff that like, just like you've worked on with your family, that you can work on that at some point, because I do know the life that like, that we are supposed to live in this light, like that's from him. And I really believe that in you. And I know that he loves you.
You know what's interesting? Because that's always like, I think, because this topic is always so like polarizing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think for me, growing up, because I'm going to be honest, growing up in how I grew up with like Jesus, God, everything, there's a part of me that like believes that, right? I'm just like, okay, like Jesus, like if I pray to Jesus, right? I pray to God. But I think where like I'm different is like, if I was to choose a religion that I'm a part of, I would probably be considered agnostic in the sense of like, I believe in something. It's probably Jesus.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, well, it could be something else. Right. And I believe more in like energies and I'm spiritual in that sense. More so of like, I even think even to like a point of like vibes, right? Like I feel like you can sense other people's energies and like choose who you want around, things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's a part of me too that like, what if as humans we are searching for a higher being, but really we were just created? What if there is no like purpose, right? What if life is just life? That's also a idea that I go with, because I don't know. I know you love horror movies, and I know we like vibe on that. Have you ever seen the movie Prometheus?
No, I don't think I did see that.
So like basically, it's like humans are like we think we found where like our God is, our creator is at. Let's go see if we can ask like what's going on, blah blah blah. They find it, and basically, the question gets asked like, "Why did you create us?" And it was like, because we could. There was no meaning.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm just like, wow, like what if that's the same thing with us? If you think about it, we create life all the time. Scientists create like fucking, you know, just things all the time.
That's before you even talk about video games and simulations and stuff.
Yes. Like we create life all the time.
Yeah.
And like, what if this bacteria that we've created somehow gets smart one day and they just ask themselves like, oh, why are we created? Oh, because you were like in a petri dish somewhere and we just did it, you know? So it's so interesting how like there's so many ideas. So like, I think for me, my mind, when it comes to things like that, I just question. But the difference with me that I think I wish more of the world was, you believe the way that you do. If it makes you happy, I love that for you.
Yes.
Right? Same thing that I tell my family when I try to convince them about like, hey, I'm gay, like you should be happy for me.
Right.
Maybe you don't agree with it. I still to this day, even though I don't agree with the way that they view religion and just spirituality in general, I'm still happy because it makes them happy.
Right.
I'm like, I see what it does for you, especially like through the hard times.
Right.
I'm like, that works for you. I love that. It's just whenever it gets to the point of just like, you're okay to believe the way that you do, but you look down on me for being the way. And that's where I have problems, right?
For sure.
Can I ask a question about that? I've just been thinking about this since you mentioned this earlier. You said you were in church earlier, and then you would go home and pray like for him to take it away, right? But you kind of sounded like you were young when that happened.
Yes.
Where would you place that?
So
roughly.
Oh God. So I would say I would place that in like teenage years.
Okay.
So because trauma, there's a period of my life that I don't remember.
Yeah.
And so there was when I tell you guys, there's a lot there, and a lot of it like I don't want to share because it's like family stuff that's it's a little touchy.
Yeah.
But the reason why I bring that up is to say, what is your reaction? And perhaps this is how you've been treated in these situations that you're talking about. But what is your reaction whenever people believe that it was a choice that you made?
So my initial reaction is like, it's not a choice because obviously like I would, I grew up and like thinking back, it's just, but like, I don't get angry at that. Right.
For the record, I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
Why,
personally, but anyways,
it's almost like for me, like, why would someone choose to like experience societal negativity like that? right? And it's something that like now I look back and I'm just like, I do believe God, Jesus, made me like this for a reason, because I think I was supposed to go through what I went through to show other people that we are all human, that just because I'm gay doesn't mean I'm a certain way, right? And it's also like, I think to me, it gets complicated because then we go into like the extremists of every culture group, right? Because and for me, gay culture, let's just speak on that for a second, is very promiscuous. It's very loud. It's very in your face about certain things.
So it's not like you're only dealing with the stigma of that, but then you're dealing with all this like stereotypes. As
so
well.
I think for me, I'm like in the middle.
Yeah.
And I'm not gay enough, or I'm too gay. I'm not brown enough, or I'm too brown, you know? And it's just like, oh my God, like, can I not just exist?
No,
you
that's
know?
that's the same way that I've always felt because I'm not obese, but I'm not small.
Yeah.
So I'm in between.
Yes.
And it's literally a constant thing of like, like either way I'm pulled. When I did get to my lowest weight, well, but it's still not, you know what I mean?
Not this.
It's not this. But then when I was at my heavier, well, but you're still not you can't, you know what I mean? Like you can't claim that. It's like, whoa, like I can just be in this body and it be okay.
Yes. And I think that's where like individuality is like key for me. But then it's like, I don't know why I just remember this. Something that annoys me from like no shade, like the certain Christian standpoints that I've heard is that whenever I say that, like individuality, their rebuttal is, well, that's pride. You can't have that because you should be all about God and God's not. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, can you just not be happy? Like, or can you just say like, hey, what I'm trying to say is that like, for me, I'm just Michael.
Yeah.
Right. I am so many different aspects that like, not only am I gay, I'm Hispanic, I'm an American, I'm this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just, I'm not going to live my life like being this like, you know, super proud. Like, I'm a proud gay man, but I'm not gonna like overdo it. I think sometimes it's like, yes, the whole identity thing. And I think like sometimes that can be a little much even for me.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, even like, but not all of it is bad, right? Like I think the core of it is, but then you get these extremists. Like I keep hearing about San Francisco Pride, where it's supposed to be about acceptance and everything, and people are literally like having sex, like in the middle of parades where like kids can go, you know, and things like that. And it's just like, but then you have an aspect of it where it is a very loving community.
Yeah.
And it's very like accepting. But this is where like I struggle with like social norms. I've never been one to like, I've always battled against them because I've never really truly fit in.
Right.
Right. I'm always like, my gay friends are always like, let's go to the gay club. Let's do this. And I'm like, I don't want to go to the gay club because like when you go there, it's like really promiscuous. Like people are doing crazy stuff. And like, I don't know, like it's just, and I just want to just be me and that be okay.
But I think that shows that you're on your own path. And I feel that very much so too, because again, it's like a lot of single girls that are like wanting to like hang out with me now. It's like, they're like, okay, let's go out. Let's go to the bars. It's like, well, that's not how I enjoy my time. That's not who I want to be around.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I stopped drinking.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you
No, thanks.
for that. Like, but that's the thing is like, again, living a healthier, cleaner life. I just don't want to be around it. Like, I don't need to be hit on by drunk guys. Like, that's not what I'm about. It. Like, I want to date my husband. Like, that's what I want. And I will say this too, that in terms of like the religion and just as a whole, right? That just like if somebody met, you know, one gay person that like really showed them like a negative, like stereotype, whatever, like, same thing with the religion. Like, I hate that you've had such bad points with people on it, because where my love comes from and like where I know like Jordan, like the people who are actually like living in the spirit, like it comes from is a place of compassion. So it's more of a love, that there's so much love for you that like I only want what's best for you. Like I want you to feel the love that I feel daily. You know what I mean? So that is where that comes from, not a judgment of a, you know, whatever. And that's where I think that like, that's where Christians get a bad rap of, it's more, they take it to the extreme of, like, you're not doing this, so this equals this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think for you, like speaking on you personally, I've always known you've had a spiritual aspect to you, but it's never been like, I don't think we've ever really like had deep conversations about it. But ultimately, you've never made me feel any type of way. I've never had to like leave a conversation and be like, Danielle thinks a certain way just because of like who I am.
Yeah.
Whereas like, and I've heard people say that before, like exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
But the part that like gets me, and it's almost like a little knife, is like they almost need to, at least in my experience, they almost need to make it a fact for them to tell you that they don't agree with something.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh, I love you and everything, but I don't agree with you being gay.
Right.
And it's just like, okay, that's like a like slapping me, right?
Yes.
Like backhanding me a little bit. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why do you have to say that? I'm not like talking to my family or anything. Like
Right.
I never once, like anytime you've said how you feel about religion, Christianity, any of that, I never want to tell you, oh yeah, but I don't agree with that.
Right.
Because it's almost like, why?
Yeah.
Like that makes you happy. I love that about you.
Yes.
You know, I accept that for you. That's it. I keep that other stuff to myself. I just wish more people, at least from my point of view, what I've experienced in the Christian denomination, would just stop saying these like little jabs.
Yeah.
It's like, just be like, I'm happy for you. I love you.
Yeah.
Leave it there.
Right.
Don't be like, but I don't agree with what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's like, bitch.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get
All
it.
right. What am I supposed to do with that? Like,
Right.
You know?
And that's where too, like, again, I think that when you like are on this journey and when you create your own reality, and that's what I feel like I've been able to do, you know, with everything, it's like you want to focus on helping as many people as you can and loving them where they're at. And so that's what I've always done, you know what I mean? Like with my clients, with my friends and things like that, no matter what part of their journey they're on, you know? And like, yeah, I've watched you grow so much in just, I mean, really like, I would say over the past couple of years, I don't know if it's because, you know, with everything going on with your dad and like all that too, but like, you know, just, I mean, you're doing therapy more now, you're working out, you're not drinking. Like, it's so great to see. And
Thank
it's
you.
so special because it's like, I want that for all of my friends. I want all of them to be living their best life and their most fulfilled life, you know?
I'm going to share something with you.
Okay.
So, still like a newish thing. I don't really like speak openly. So like, okay. So thank you for saying what you said.
Yeah.
So what you have probably experienced, like the change in me is just more of just like understanding myself and how I work.
Yeah.
Right. I have always struggled with mental health, and it's something that you can say it's a number of different things, right? It's a trauma. It's just like different things. I got to a place in my journey where a couple years ago, did the therapy. I was like, cool. Like, I feel better. I feel healed. There's just something still there, though. Like, something that, like, I still get anxiety. I still get all of these things. And I'm a problem solver.
Right.
I'm not someone that's going to gripe about something and not do something about it. Right. I'm someone that's like, why is this happening? Which is like a good and a bad thing because I drive myself crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm just like, fuck. Like, just let it go. But, like, it's good because I'm always trying to, like, be better.
Yeah.
Right. So, where my journey took me was I have realized, and through speaking with multiple therapists, psychologists, that they call it, I have a touch of autism.
Okay.
I have a touch of what was considered at a time Asperger's.
Okay.
Whereas now that's not a term anymore. It's all on the spectrum. And where my touch comes from is I have sensory overwhelm. I've never shared that with you because it's still a new concept for me. But I don't know if you remember, like there would be moments like growing up where I would have like legit outbursts.
Yeah.
I would like scream. I would like, there would be times where I would like disappear from people.
Yes.
And I like, that was me regulating myself. Because what I've realized is that I get very overwhelmed with certain stimuli.
Yeah.
And it's hard for my body to like, whereas like people, they just, it goes in and it goes out. I like hold on to it.
Yeah.
And so I've always done, it's called like stimming, where you like do different like things where you kind of release energy. But ultimately, I've realized that about myself. And ever since I've learned that, the piece that comes with that, because that was the missing puzzle piece.
Yeah.
It's just like, now I know when I'm getting really overwhelmed and like one thing is like bright lights.
Yeah.
Bright lights, loud noises, things like that. I just get like really triggered. And that was the thing that wasn't clicking for me. I'm like, why am I blowing up over the smallest thing?
Right.
Like I literally heard like a loud noise and it angers me.
Right. Okay.
It like
yeah.
freaks me out. And I would have outbursts.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. I was like, what is wrong with me?
Right.
But after learning that, oh my God, like now I've finally found peace. Where
that's
like,
so great.
but it's what makes me think is like, one, I've learned a lot about neurodivergence and like the autism spectrum in general.
Yep.
And like for me to fit in like one small sliver of it,
Yeah.
I could just imagine people that not only have sensory overwhelm, but have other aspects of it, components of it, and just living that life. Because I think for me, looking back, I'm just like, oh my gosh, that was it. And also telling people about it. Because what if you do have something like that where it's driving you crazy and you don't know why? And as soon as you learn about it, your life changes.
Yeah.
And I think that revelation for me was huge because now I know, whereas before this is why I learned about myself, about like how I'm more shy.
Yeah.
I know that. Whereas before I was forced to go in these social situations, that's where I would have my outbursts. If you look back when I would like scream and cry and have these moments, it was always when I was around a lot of people and like I would just get like so like freaked out. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh. So now when I don't want to do something, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm like, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas before I would force myself and be like, no, you need to do this because society wants you to do this.
Wow.
And now I'm just like, no, I need to rest. I find myself that I need a lot more rest than I don't want to say normal, but like than your general public. Like probably after this podcast, I'm probably going to go lay down for like an hour or two.
No, same. Like I totally get that.
And be just like, I'm dead.
It's exhausting. And the crazy thing is I've actually had the like opportunity to work with a few autistic clients, and one was here earlier, and she's been open about her story and talked about it on everything. And so, but she's just fantastic. But she's taught me a lot about neurodivergent people and this and whatever. And it
What does that mean, just for the audience?
So you want?
Neurodivergence is a new term for like special needs. So like anybody that struggles with, it started as a R word, then became like special needs, special, all this stuff. Neurodivergence is encompass of all of that.
Yeah. But it's like, it could even be like a touch of like what he's saying. Like it doesn't, you might not know, but it might be like that you're talking to somebody and you feel a little bit off. Like, and like I trained this male client like a long time ago. And like, I just never, like he just would talk to me and be kind of like, he was very insightful. We had amazing conversations, but I'm like, is it me? Am I just kind of like, so then I'm looking whatever. And he finally, it told me one day, it's like, oh yeah. I mean, I've been, I have, Asperger's or whatever is what he said. And I was like, oh, and he was like, yeah, like you didn't know. I was like, I mean, I kind of thought I did know something, but like,
something, yeah.
Like, you don't want to be rude and you don't want to whatever. And then I'm just like, am I just so outgoing? And so like, whatever. Anyway, but it helped me then. Like, and after that, I mean, just like training with him, it was so much easier for us to just communicate and then like, and to know how far to push, how much not. Like, it was so great,
I'll tell you something because I want to speak on that more because if anybody sees this, that is like on that journey, it's crazy how much you learn. So like for me, I've always struggled with like anything that I've said has always been ridiculed. And that's a component that I've attributed to being on the spectrum of like, I just say things sometimes that hurt people's feelings that like, they're like, Michael, that's too much. Why are you doing that? So my whole life, I've always been told too much.
Yes.
When I've realized but for me, I'm just like, I don't see anything wrong with what I'm doing.
Right.
And now I've had to learn to like, oh, it's just one of those moments. Cause people, when I tell you, it's affected relationships.
Yes.
Cause people would think that I'm coming from a bad place when I'm just being honest. And I like, it's almost like, there are people that don't have filters, of course, but it's
different.
It's the level of like, because you can say everyone has a touch of something, right?
Yeah.
Which I mean, could be true if you want to go down that path.
Yeah.
But I think it's like from what I understand is how much of it like occurs in your life.
Right.
Does it happen just one-offs? Is it everyday struggle? And that's the difference between being diagnosed with something and not.
Right.
And so I think for me, always struggled with that, never realized that that's a connection.
Yeah.
Social norms is a big thing that we're like, I've always struggled with that too. That's another connection. The stimuli of working out. I'm glad you said that because that brought something up to me.
Yeah.
My endurance when I work out can be very low. Mm-hmm. And I've always wondered about this because I'm like, what is this? Because it's not that, for example, when I'm boxing, it's not that I'm tired.
Right.
Like I could feel myself going, but it's almost like a meter.
Yeah.
It's like a meter of stimuli when I'm hitting a bag, when I'm like kicking a bag, when I'm doing what I need to do. I almost like get overloaded to where I'm just like, oh my God. And then I have to like breathe and like calm myself down. But it's not a tired thing.
Yes.
It's like, it's so interesting to explain it, because it's like I've noticed, even if I'm certain clothes is another thing. I don't know if you've noticed, my attire has changed from being, I used to dress in like collared shirts all the time working at the bank. I was always so uncomfortable, and it would enhance my sensory overwhelm, which was why I was so like outrageous during these times.
Right. Okay.
Because of even the clothes that I was wearing.
Yeah.
It would just like stimulate me, whereas now I have to wear like certain fabrics that don't do that. And it's just so interesting once you go down that like path of like certain quirks that I have. I've noticed I do, it's called stimming, but like I do this like weird, like it's not weird, but like I'm trying to get weird and things out of my vocabulary so that I don't create something.
No, for sure.
But like certain stimming behaviors, like I'll like do these like hand things
that feel
sometimes.
unnatural. They're not like,
And so like to other
you.
people, they're just like, oh, well, like, why are you doing that? But I've had to learn. I'm just like,
Well, all this to say, I will say that, like, again, so this is the thing. I've learned about myself as well, about certain things that I have that I never knew or whatever. And we can talk more about that on the Patreon. So y'all make sure to subscribe and check that out after this. But right. So basically it's like, with all that, but you don't identify as that.
yeah.
And that's the key. That's what I want everyone listening or watching to understand, that like it's the same thing with people who I've worked with in the past that are like, oh, I'm just an FAT person. Like their whole identity is in that. And that's who they are. And so trying to disassociate that, and the longer you live in that and the longer you whatever, it's like, it's so hard to get back, like to get to who you actually are. And I mean, I see even moms go through that. Like they're a mother. That's it. They're a mother, like that. They're not, you know what I mean? They're not, I don't know. So it's just
I feel like my mom's going through that. Like she was a wife, and now
Right.
that's all she knows how to be. And so she's like really struggling with what's happening, but you're right.
Yeah. And so it's like, so again, all this to say, learn about yourself, continue to create and like move forward in that path, but know that no matter what diagnosis or this or that or whatever that have been told that you are and that you are going through, it still doesn't mean that that's a negative or that that's a sad thing or whatever. It's just more knowledge to learn about yourself and be like, oh, actually, this could open up so many doors and make you be, your highest self.
Yes. And the reason why I like choose to tell people is more so of like an understanding.
Yeah.
Because I never want to tell people for you to say like, okay. So for example, at the gym, I told the coaches because if you watch me during like certain things, I do certain mannerisms.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like trying to like basically like get rid of some like excess energy is what it is. Like I tap I do this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if you see me doing that, this is why. It's never because I want you to like treat me differently.
Yeah.
I just want you to understand. And it's like with relationships and everything, right? Like if I say something that might trigger somebody, if I like say the wrong thing, this is why, but still tell me that it hurts your feelings because that's not my intent. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Right. So it's more of just like an understanding piece of just like, this is what my experience is. Here's like a little lens into what that's like.
Right.
But it's never so that you can be like, oh, like he's autistic, he's gay, he's like all this. I can only do certain things around him. It's like, no, like I just want you to know so that
more about me so we can understand each other better.
You can understand me.
Well, we're coming to the end of the segment, and again, we could talk for hours, but I do want you to talk on really quickly about, so you said that your mom's kind of been losing like her way with everything, so like that, like you've had to really do, I mean, you told me you've done a lot, like you did with the funeral, like you arranged all of that stuff. Like, how are you right now, like with your mental state?
So I'm good.
Yeah.
And it feels good to say that because, bitch, if you would have asked me to come on here a month ago, I wouldn't have been good.
Right.
I was going through it.
Yeah.
I'm good in the sense of like, because of the way that I process information, I saw things for what they were.
Yes.
When I was seeing my dad dwindle. Right. I knew what was coming.
Yep.
And I'm a realist in the sense of like, okay, how do I will pray. So there was some tension between my family and I because I feel like there was a sense of denial from their
Yes.
perspective.
Yes.
And I
remember you
feel
telling me
like
that.
there was a lot of like, there were some battles there.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I want you guys to see this for what it is. Then again, it was like a boundary thing. Maybe I should have respected it a little bit more, but whatever that was, I was doing it from a place of love because I
Yes.
know now, seeing what my mom is going through, she was in denial up until the very end.
Yeah.
She even says that now,
Yeah.
which is good
Gave
for
you chills.
growth.
Yeah.
But seeing how she is having a hard time comprehending what's happening, whereas I started comprehending early on,
Right.
and I was more prepared.
Yeah.
Not saying one is the right path or the other. It's just different paths that we
Yes.
took. Her denial, it was a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
I don't think she would be able to deal with the fact of what was happening
Yeah.
like I was.
Right.
And it's just different perspectives. And I think for me, I am at a place to where I am good now, and I see her struggling, and it hurts me because I don't want my mom to hurt. And
Yeah.
now she's at a point where she's questioning. She's like, what do I do with my life? Because she had one identity for so long.
Right. Well, I want to say too, you just started a new business, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consulting?
Yes.
Yes,
So
okay.
I'm good at like fixing. Like
Yeah.
a lot of businesses, people go into business because they love what they do. They don't know how to operate a business.
Correct.
I am the piece that helps you how to operate a business.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you did it. So I wanted to say congrats on that.
Thank you.
And you and your partner both are in.
Yes. The Michaels.
Okay. So then you may be going abroad.
Yes.
So many things.
So many things.
The very positive things,
Yes.
right? New starts, new seasons, all the things. And you're learning about yourself continually on the way. So I do want to ask, 'cause I ask everybody this at the end of the segment. But what is something that you love about your body?
One thing I love about my body.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to sound so weird, but it's not caring about it physically as much as I did in the past. Learning to literally be comfortable with where I'm at. There was a time in my life
Love your body
where
throughout.
and it's funny that this came to me because there was a time in my life where I was like, no, like I look back at pictures and I'm like, dang, it'd be nice to still be that small.
Yeah.
But I still wasn't happy then.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, this isn't right. This isn't right. This isn't right. And now I look at myself. Yeah, I'm a little pudgy on some things. Still kind of skinny. I could lose some weight, but I'm good. Right. I'm doing the healthy thing. I'm eating as good as I can. Like
Right.
I could probably eat better, but
Yeah.
I'm just in a good place with where I look. And I think for me right now, that's enough
Yeah. I love that so much.
because I don't want to kill myself anymore.
Right. No, you're putting it into perspective.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a real healthy lifestyle journey versus just dieting
Oh my gosh,
or hating
yeah.
your life or whatever.
Yes.
And not living in that perfection mindset, that I feel like we both kind of had when we were growing up.
There's still snippets and I'm like, no, stop.
Exactly. We just turn negative into a positive.
I know, right?
So, but is there anything else that you wanted to say? Because I just was so great that you came on, and I appreciate you. I love you. I think this was a great episode. I hope you had so much fun.
Thanks, B.
And it's just
No, I had so much fun. This was great. It literally was like literally a conversation with you.
Yeah, just
I was just, the cameras and stuff like, hey. But no, I love you so much, and I'm glad that we've known each other as long as we have. You're literally my oldest friend. So like, yeah.
Me too.
I love
Me
you.
too. It means the world.
I
I
know.
love you. All right. Until next time, you guys.